Sometimes historical landmarks are lost in the name of progress. Sometimes, thankfully, they get recreated. Well, such was the case of Fort Loudoun in East Tennessee. Rob Wiles has taken us to the fort and to a nearby museum that share an important chapter in Tennessee history.
Meet Will Kenton.
I'm a park ranger here at Fort Loudoun, park ranger too officially.
I'd have to say the park ranger uniforms have changed since the last one I was at. What do you got on today?
Well, at your cultural areas, your historic parks, we do a lot of living history interpretation. So today I'm dressed as a soldier, would have been here at Fort Loudoun 250 years ago.
Fire! Back when the enemy the walls were meant to keep out was the French.
Fort Loudoun was in use from 1756 through 1760. It was the first English-speaking settlement west of the Allegheny Mountains, first one in what will one day be Tennessee. The people came here and built this fort because of the military might of the Cherokee. They had to have that alliance.
So out marched British soldiers from South Carolina to build the fort. And the alliance with the Cherokee, well, it lasted for a while.
Large, powerful Cherokee nation. Our enemies aren't coming through this valley unless the Cherokee let them. And so in so many respects, Fort Loudoun is the testament of the military might of the Cherokee nation, even down to the way it fell. When Fort Loudoun fell to the Cherokee in August of 1760, it was the only British fort in North America to fall to a force made up solely of American Indians.
The Cherokee burned the original fort, and later the creation of Tellico Lake flooded the area. But a replica was built on this site, sticking close to the original plans.
Here at Fort Loudoun, they had sawyers as part of their construction crew. It was their job to rip the boards and make these clapboard buildings. That's Barracks Road that you see stepping down the hill. In the early stages of construction, the design had for there to be one chimney connecting each two buildings. Captain Desmarais saw the work the mason was doing, was not impressed, and had the chimneys pulled down, thinking those were going to fall and kill his troops. So they went instead with the chimneys being on the back side, the west side of those buildings. But the buildings you see here today are built on the footprints of originals. The ground's been raised up 17 feet to get the lower part of the fort above the high water mark, but we've got the archaeological data, we've even got the diagrams, the drawings written up in the early days of Fort Loudoun to base those on.
So visitors come from around the world to see what used to be.
Present! Fire!
In one of those ironies that history so often presents us, the Cherokee destroyed the fort, then much later, the lake destroyed much of Cherokee history.
The nearest Cherokee town of Tuskegee, birthplace of Sequoyah, was just beyond that building. It's now flooded. So a huge piece of world history is underneath the water just beyond that house. But that town of Tuskegee sprung up outside the new Fort Loudoun to be close to the British fort. Just a short distance further up, the Cherokee town of Tenasseee, namesake of our state, it's also flooded. But the Overhill country, this is the home to numerous Cherokee towns. It's the birthplace of many Cherokee leaders. It's very rich in Cherokee history.
Fortunately, just down the road from Fort Loudoun, Cherokee history is recalled, and one giant of a man is remembered. The Cherokee Sequoyah, who created a singular achievement, according to Charlie Rodarmer, director of the Sequoyah Birthplace Museum.
Sequoyah never had an education. He never learned English, German, French, to read or write in any language. Here he's challenged with academic deficiency on his own over a 12-year period, develops the writing system by himself. And no one else has done that.
Sequoyah was an artist, a trader, a silversmith, a blacksmith, and the creator of a whole language, even though he had his challenges from birth.
Now, Sequoyah can translate into from Cherokee into English to mean pig's foot. Sequoyah had a limp, that he walked, had a physical challenge.
Of course, that didn't stop him. He first created a numbering system to allow him to keep track of who owed him what in his blacksmith business. And then...
And it's in his blacksmith shop. In 1809, there's a group of Cherokees standing around, and Sequoyah announces to this group of Cherokee, you know, we could create a writing system. We could put our words on paper, just like the English can put their English on paper. We could do that. And so in 1809, he begins a 12-year journey in trying to create a writing system, which he finally finished in 1821.
The museum tells us about the man and about his people.
What you'll see is some of the different periods of the different peoples that were here in the Overhill over the last 10, 12,000 years. And then we have exhibits that talk about the fort period when Fort Loudoun was built. We also have exhibits that talk about the syllabary and show you the examples of Sequoyah's work.
Work that was historic, places that are historic, recalled for us at Fort Loudoun and the Sequoyah Birthplace Museum, both in Loudoun County.